All right, so it's about to be spring, which means we're going to be kicking off our project up north. So, for our project up north, this year it's going to be sea containers. We're going to bring in two sea containers. The reason why is because we need one for storage. A lot of the stuff in the pole barn currently up there is doesn't really need to be in there. It's like machinery, it's stuff that really should be outside of that, but doesn't have a spot to go. And I want the pole barn to be a space where we can use it for community and for cooking. So it doesn't really fit my vision of the pole barn, but I don't have a space to put it. So now the idea behind that is if we get sea containers, they're watertight, they will secure any material that we put in them, including machinery, to make sure that no animals or critters get into them and that there's no water damage as well. Hence, that's our reasoning for one sea container. Now, our reasoning for the second sea container. The second sea container is more of a living space, a temporary living space, kind of like how a trailer is utilized. It's not nothing entirely permanent, but it's the whole premise is for someone to be able to sleep in there comfortably and live in there for like a week if they wanted to without needing to feel like they need to go outside of that, right? I want it to be comfortable and not feel like they're sleeping out in a tent or out in the middle of nowhere, right? I want it to feel safe. So that's my reasoning for what the other sea container is going to be. But the reason why I need it is because currently the trailer that we were using for my Uncle Charles, he, well, the trailer is not in good condition and we need a new one or we need a new space for him to stay. And him staying in the house isn't a great alternative because it's not consistent because depending on the event and depending on how many people come up per year, he might need to have a space outside of that. And it would be nice, especially since we're having family and other friends start to want to come up north more regularly. We need to have a space where they can stay. And that trailer has mold in it and it needs to go. So if that's gone, then we need a spot for him to stay. And so we decided to make a sea container home basically. For that sea container home, we want to have two rooms and they're gonna be roughly around 11 to 12 feet. So enough space for one person, two people to sleep, basically like a bedroom. That's basically what it is. And then we will have another space in the middle for more communion. So you'll have a TV, you'll have a couch, you'll have chairs and a table, right? So you'll have an area where you can hang out. That's the idea. And you have the main entrance and exit for the sea container. So for that, that is basically how that's going to be laid out. And one room will be on one side, and the other room will be on the other side. And then you have your common area in the middle. So those are my reasons for why we need two sea containers. There's other stuff that we will do outside of that as well. We will have a trail and some other things. We have other ideas that we're pitching in along with the sea container. Maybe something to add on or build out and stuff like that that we have to think about. So the area that we're gonna put this is actually behind where the where my Uncle Charles' trailer used to be. That's a lot of trees that we have to clear. Some of them are a little sparse, some of them are already down, and some of them are big boys that whether or not drop. So we're gonna have to get a little bit determined, and that's why I'm bringing in a nice crew to help out clear out a lot of those trees. So to give a better perspective of exactly what the sea containers will look like and how they will be arranged, I will pull up a diorama real quick. So this is our diorama of exactly how this is going to look. So first and foremost, for reference points, over here is Ramon's property in this general area where he has this concrete pad. It's all this diagram is not accurate entirely. It's just condensed a little bit. So there is his electrical panel. Here is his concrete pad, and then there's actually a much bigger distance between these two. And then you get to the sea containers. So all of this is trees right now. This used to be a trailhead that we used to have, and then ever since our tornado came through our property, it is, well, untrekkable. We can't get through it. We can't traverse through it in any way. But I want to change that. I want to bring this trail back. So the idea is, as we're clearing all of these trees for the sea containers, we start clearing at least the path for the trail. Now, the first sea container is going to be used for storage. This is sea container 1 over here. Sea container 2 is going to be used for our housing, or I guess not as like housing, but lodging for people, for company. So for both sea containers, they will both have doors on each side, one over here, one over there, and that's for sea container 2, one over here, and one over here, and that's for sea container 1. And actually, they both will have middle doors too. We will be making these and installing them. So this one over here will go to the middle sea container, or to sea container 1. It'll go in the middle, and it'll be more like a garage door style. So it'll roll up, and we want it to be maybe a 4-foot door so that we can get stuff that's in this container out that might be 30 36 inches, maybe more, so something that's a yard or bigger, we can get it out of there without needing to open up the big doors. Because if it's in the middle, then we got to get all the stuff between it out just to get to that one thing. And then we got to get it out. So this would be a quick and fast way to get access to that. Now, this one, you're going to have windows over here on this side, and that'll be for one room. And then you'll have a window over here, and that'll be for your other room. And then in the middle, you're going to have your main entry door. It's going to be a sliding door. I'm thinking a sliding glass door would be nice, or something along the lines of that. And that will be for this area. Now, you get over to the other end, and this access point here is going to be nice for the bikes, the dirt bikes, the four-wheelers, because then we can just pull right out onto the trail and just start ripping it up. So that part's nice. I want to have some trees here for shading, but I also want to have a walk path to be able to get to this door. Now, the gap here is so that I can open up this door if needed pretty accessibly, and also so that if they were up against each other, I don't have to walk all the way around one of the sea containers to get to this door, right? So that's the reason behind the layout. Now, are we going to be running electrical? So I talked about a TV. You need power to run a TV. Now, there's two things that I want to bring up here. Everything in the sea or three things. Everything in the sea container is made to be small or be able to be collapsed or condensed so we can still store things in it in the wintertime if need be. This is going to be handy because some things like my car and maybe my dad's car get brought up here in the wintertime and need a spot to get stored. And oftentimes that takes up a lot more space, right? So when we do that, having that extra space that we can suddenly access would be handy too. So multiple purposes for the sea container that it can be used for depending on the season, right? So anyways, power for the thing. Now you see this little electrical pole over here. We're going to pull power from Ramon's property. He offered it up, and we're going to go around the concrete pad, and then we're going to shoot over to the sea container. So it's going to be a pretty long run. Overall, it's over 200 feet. So it's a long run. It's going to go to a small, not cable. It's going to be a big cable, but it's going to go to a small panel right over here on this side of the sea container. And from that, you're going to feed power into the sea container and then conduit everything inside. And that'll give us power. So I aim to have at least one receptacle in each room, maybe two in the common area. And then I aim to have overhead lighting. And if not overhead lighting, then I would just add in another receptacle for each room. So then I would have like three in the common area. I would have like two in each room. And then you have your receptacle or your plug where you can plug in a light and you can turn it on, right? But if not, which I want to do like ceiling lights. So if anything, the receptacle would be on the ceiling or near it, and you would just plug right into that. So from that, that means we have power. Now, real quickly, to talk about the dividers between each room, we're going to use like acoustic panels or like a fake paneling along with a barn door. So it'll be like a sliding door essentially. And so that'll be nice because then it doesn't swing, and then I don't have to accommodate space for all for the door to swing open, right? I don't need to worry about that. So then sliding doors will divide each room. So you'll have one here, and you'll have one like here, and then you'll have your main area, your side door, right? So that'll make some like it'll make a divide between each room so that you don't feel like you're on top of each other and like you're breathing the same air, even though you kind of are. Now, the next thing I want to bring up is maybe it gets a little cool at night, right? Maybe we're using this in the fall time a little bit. Maybe we're using it in the spring and it's a little cold. So then we need some sort of HVAC system or some way to heat it, right? So we might go HVAC system. Depending on price. I have a friend who might be able to get it for fairly cheap from what it sounds like, but we'll see on what that pricing looks like. Depending on that, we might run an HVAC system next year sometime. So the whole goal this year is to drop the first sea container, the second sea container, cut out the doors, cut out the windows, do the windows, do the doors between each room, and to have one room done, to have a table at least and chairs in the common area, and to at least have an area to sleep in your other room, your other bedroom. That's the whole premise. Now, for going to the bathroom, I'm not concerned about that. They can just go in the house if they have to. It's not that big of a deal. But for the HVAC system, it would go somewhere here, and then we would feed it into each room. I'm not worried about the common area. Realistically, if it's getting cold, you probably want to go to bed anyways. So the common area is not a concern. And even if that it is a concern, they could probably use a space heater, right? But also, the heat will flow over because your heat comes out from here and here. Your only exit point is through the barn door. So you'll still get some heat in this room, just not as much. That's more or less the concept. So I do want one receptacle on the outside. That is the only other thing I might mention. At least one, if not two. And I would want one close to this sea container here, sea container one, so that I could use maybe an extension cord for something if I needed to crack open the side door here and then run power in just temporarily because something broke or something needs work. And then I'd have one over here somewhere. So one on each side of the main door, basically the sliding door. That would be the premise, the idea. It might just be one. We'll see depending on what the power looks like and how much I can really pull out to certain areas. But that is all around the main premise. Like that is simply put how the sea container is going to be mocked up. Tables and chairs only big ones are here in the main room. Outside of that, there's not much to it. But me and my dad went up north and we started on prepping the excavating and figuring out what stuff we need and grouping it all together and getting some other small things done while we were up there. So, excavation of all of this trees that are in this area right now will start in about a month. So, this is going to be our big primary focus to excavate the area and then to lay concrete pads. We're going to have small concrete pads on each corner. The main reason is because if you don't concrete pad it, it's going to sink into the ground a little bit. As the ground becomes moist, it's going to want to sink. And then when it does that, it's not going to be entirely level. So from there, you get issues later on with maybe the barn door doesn't stay closed because it's not level and it always slides open, right? Or maybe you can't really keep it open and it always slides shut, right? So you run into issues like that, right? In the corners, we're going to put little concrete pads, and this is to deter the chance of any sort of being off level. So we'll have to level off each concrete pad to each other, make sure that they're all level, and then that would mean the whole sea container will be level. We'll do this with this one, and we'll do this with this one. And with that being said, that is it for the sea container. That is all the thoughts I have so far. I've been given a lot of opportunities with this, be given a lot of thoughts, a lot of things that I didn't think I could add that maybe I can add. So we'll see what other things pop up that I might want to do. But so far, this is the main idea, and this is what we're sticking to. I want power by the end of the year. I want the rooms to be laid out, the bedrooms, and done. And I want the common area to be started on, if not halfway done.